Hello! We all know those big football nations that will most likely qualify for the World Cup. Although some have disappointed recently from that top list, there are some countries that had an even longer drought of playing at the world's biggest stage, or even never played at all. Today, I'll be taking a look at a number of countries from each confederation, apart from the OFC, I'm just naming one there, that have a genuine chance to qualify for the World Cup for the very first time, or the first time in a while. This video is for the non-World Cup regulars, and there's a lot of national teams that have been on an insane rise recently that deserve some shouts. I just want to emphasize that this is not a prediction video. It's just my personal list of teams you should look out for. Of course, there could be some surprises, and I truly hope there are. So please let me know in the comments if I left out any teams, or in general, if you agree with my list. Alright, let's start off with UEFA. Now, I am recording this video before all the qualifier groups have been released. However, there are still many national teams worth talking about. Let's begin with the potential debutants. For me, the ones to have the best go to qualify for their very first World Cup are Georgia and Albania. Georgia have been somewhat silently making a massive stance in international football. For me, it really started when they defeated Sweden in the World Cup qualifiers back in 2021, where a man not many knew at the time scored a brace against Ibra and co. They went into the Nations League with incredible confidence, demolishing almost all their opponents, earning them a playoff spot in the Euro qualifiers, where they shocked the world, advancing over a Euro winner, Greece. In the tournament, they had a poor start against Turkey, but then drew a Czech Republic, and then once again shocked the world, defeating Portugal. They went on to lose to the eventual champions in the round of 16, but have not lost their heart. At the time of this recording in the Nations League, they have had a strong start, but have fallen short a bit. Their strong start being against Czech Republic, revisiting their Euro opponents and demolished them 4-1. This squad has quite a few superstars that have already been established or are continuing to be in the making. The unknown brace scorer against Sweden is now one of the best wingers in all of Europe, and has 26 direct goal contributions for the national team in 38 matches. Their goalkeeper, Mamardashvili, registered the most amount of saves at Euro 2024 by quite the margin. He's one of the highest valued goalkeepers in the entire world, and already has a future lined up for him at Liverpool. Despite Georgia getting knocked out of Euro 2024 in the round of 16, their striker was one of the top goal scorers of the tournament. Their manager, Willy Sagnol, has made this country a feared underdog. Whether or not they fully excel in their given qualifier campaigns or competitions, they still surprise many. Like I said, I have no idea what their group will be in the Euro qualifiers, but they are not to be underestimated. Let's move on now to Albania though, who are in the same Nations League group as Georgia. They've already played each of their fixtures against one another, both finishing in a 1-0 victory for each country. This nation in Euro 2024 did not make the round of 16 like Georgia did. However, I really think that if they were placed in a different group, they would have had a better chance. Close fights against each of these top-rated national teams in the continent, drawing with Croatia as well, setting records in the tournament like the fastest goal ever scored against Italy, one of the most passionate nations in the world. Before, sometimes it seemed like the passion really blinded this country from performing well on the pitch. But now with the Brazilian manager Silvinho, they are at full swing getting proper results. Prior to the hard work at the Euros, they topped their qualifying group. They work wonderfully together. Players in the Korean League are scoring bangers in the qualifiers. It's not going to be easy to qualify for their very first World Cup, but they definitely have what it takes. Those are potential debutants in UEFA. Now I want to move on to countries that haven't qualified in the World Cup for some time, or just in general are not World Cup regulars per se. Some of the teams I'm going to mention though, I truly think have a great chance to finally make it once again. The first one, Greece. To me, they're one of the most promising national teams right now. Like I already mentioned, Greece lost their chance to qualify for Euro 2024 due to Georgia beating them on penalties in the final playoff round. Besides that match, they already were in good form, but they went for new management and have appointed the Serbian genius Ivan Jovanovic. Since his arrival and the time of this recording, they've registered 4-for-4 wins under him, even against England. This guy in particular, I have a lot of faith in because of his incredible history. Recently was the manager of Panathinaikos, and prior also reached the Champions League quarterfinals with the Pau Nicosia, a club from Cyprus. Truly, this is one of the most underrated runs in the competition's history. Perfect fit of a manager, and it's been showing. I mean, the talent they have to their disposal, to the fashion they're beating these teams by. I mean, one of the results was a victory against England at Wembley. We have not seen this country qualify for a World Cup since 2014, and in that tournament they made it to the round of 16, but really by a stint, and were one of the more forgetful teams in the competition. But now, they're amongst one of the better performing teams in all of Europe. So depending on their future group, they definitely have what it takes to qualify for World Cup 2026. Let's return though to teams that have qualified for Euro 2024. Sorry, Greece. Let's move on to Turkey. They've also been on a remarkable rise. Now, I don't want to necessarily say it's so certain. This is one of the most unpredictable national teams out there. They've only qualified for 2 World Cups in their history, 1954 and 2002. 2002, they got an incredible 3rd place finish, but it's surprising that they've only played in so few. Well, now there are higher expectations for this country to qualify. In their electric performance in Euro 2024, they reached the quarterfinals, putting off a close fight against the Netherlands at the end. Sometimes their manager Montella adapts this inconsistent and unpredictable philosophy, like putting out a questionable lineup against Portugal, asking for a scoreline like this. But there's no denying the talent he has to his disposal are a hungry new generation. Arda Güler and Kenan Yıldız the two most famous ones. Aturkolo has been superb ever since he put on the Benfica shirt. This team are full of attacking creativity and brilliance. The one thing that worries me for them is how they show up defensively at times. Not only do they actually have more disposal to their attacking depth, they also just love to play attacking football. It's been their identity for some time. It's what makes this team so exciting, yet so unpredictable. Now this one might be debatable, but I believe Romania deserves to be on this list as well. Quite a contrast to Turkey. Apart from getting outclassed by the Netherlands in the round of 16 of Euro 2024, this side love their defensive football. They've had incredible statistics in the Euro qualifiers. Undefeated, being able to top their group over Switzerland. Along with not losing any of their matches, they also obtained 6 clean sheets. Dragushin being the biggest name, of course, but many other underrated shouts. They've got a new manager since Euro 2024 finish, Lucescu, who, just like Jovanovic with Greece, is undefeated in 4 matches, but against arguably much easier opponents. He's a bit older, reaching 80, but he's got a great resume, guiding Romania previously in the 80s to a Euro championship, and fantastic spells in Ukraine for their biggest clubs. Even won the UEFA Cup with Shakhtar back in 2008. He is an absolute legend of a coach. Is his time up? I don't know, but he definitely can provide some wisdom for the Romania national team. Last time we saw this country in the World Cup was in 1998. Their glory days existed in the 90s, qualifying for every World Cup then, making it to the knockouts each time. It will be hard to replicate such events, but Romania do seem to be on the right track improving their football, so maybe they will qualify for their first World Cup since 1998. Now let's move on to a side that I think has a lot of eyes on them. They've been in an incredible rebuild of form, and they haven't qualified for the World Cup since 1998 either. Austria. I said it many times in the past, but under Ralf Rangnick, this side looked revolutionized. Euro qualifiers, they only suffered 1 loss against Belgium, and in the tournament, they miraculously topped their group over France and the Netherlands. They got knocked out to Turkey in the round of 16, but in a hard-fought match where the improvement this side have shown recently was still noticeable. It took them 2 matches after to regain their form again, but their last 2 matches in the Nations League, they destroyed Austria and even Norway. One of the most underrated midfield units are showing that they're capable of handling any opposition. They're playing organized and fluid football. I would be afraid to be put in a group with this country now. I think they have what it takes to qualify finally for the World Cup after so many years. I also want to give Sweden a brief mention. I was not going to include them because they recently qualified in 2018, but then I realized they haven't qualified in the last 3 of 4 World Cups. This national team definitely have a lot of exciting players coming up, and they finally changed their management, so they look to be on track. Now, this is just my personal list. Of course, there are many other nations from UEFA that have what it takes to qualify for the World Cup that I'm leaving out. Scotland haven't qualified since 1998 either, despite impressing many in the Euro qualifiers last time around. However, their form recently has not been the most promising. Now, surprisingly, Ukraine have only qualified for 1 World Cup since becoming independent. 2006 saw them making it to the quarterfinals. They always seem to have a solid bunch to have what it takes to make it to the tournament, but randomly this side lose their grip of form. So I don't want to count this team out, but they're not the highest on my list. Of course though, on paper, they should be. Hungary as well. We're on an unbeaten streak until right before the Euro started, but were pretty underwhelming at the actual tournament, and recently got annihilated in the Nations League by Germany, still not recovering from that 1954 World Cup final loss. But hey, they still have an admirable squad that can qualify for their first World Cup since 1986. There's also the likes of Czech Republic, who have a lovely history under Czechoslovakia, but since becoming independent as Czech Republic, they've only qualified for 1 World Cup in 2006. Unfortunately, their Euro performances showed this side are going through a tough time of form right now, but they definitely have what it takes to go back on track. And Norway, they should qualify for something. It's been a long time for them, their last tournament being in Euro 2000. Considering the players they have to their disposal, they really should be on track. However, in my opinion, they have been beyond underwhelming. New management is definitely needed, and so far at the time of this recording, Solbakken is still in charge. This side, even when they have those glimpses of hope of returning to the right track, go on to get humiliated not too long after. So here's my personal list of teams you should watch out for, but I know there are definitely some I'm leaving out. I'd love to be proven wrong here and see some more surprises, but anyway, let's move on to the other confederations. Shifting now to the AFC, the Asian Football Confederation, we already have one country that is on track to qualify for their very first World Cup. By quite the margin at the time of this recording, Uzbekistan have an automatic World Cup spot in their group, second while tied with first Iran. This is one of the best countries on paper that have never qualified for the World Cup, I'd say. considering the talent they have. Shomurodov does not have much to show for at club level, but he's already the national team's all-time top goal scorer, 53 direct goal contributions in 77 matches. And in the last Asian Cup, they had to play without him, and still did quite well. One player that stood out there was their center attacking mid Faizuladov, and in the backline, Kusanov is a great player to rely on. It would be crazy if they slip now. I definitely think Uzbekistan are on track to qualify for their first ever World Cup, and it will be exciting to see how they do in the tournament. Another country that are definitely on track to make their World Cup debut, just haven't necessarily solidified that stance yet, is Jordan. This country were Asian Cup finalists, with not an easy road to the final. The only unfortunate thing for them is that their previous manager, Amuta, parted ways with the national team due to personal circumstances. He was a great fit without a doubt, but the replacement Salami has been doing alright so far. A slow start to that third round of Asia World Cup qualifiers drawing with Kuwait, and a defeat to South Korea where they got revenge from the Asian Cup. But they got two massive wins against their other opponents, where they still sit at an automatic spot, however sharing points with third place Iraq. This could change by the time you're watching this video, as I'm uploading this right before an international break. Their attack loves to turn up with the likes of Al-Tamadi and Yazan Al-Naimat. Even if they are not able to secure top two, third and fourth place in each group do go to another round, and I think they have what it takes to outclass the other teams that could be in that contention. An exciting side without a doubt, and if they do qualify for World Cup 2026, I hope they have some kind of road like they did in the last Asian Cup. That being said, it's exciting to note that even if they do fail to secure second place and it goes to Iraq instead, that would be another fantastic addition to the 2026 World Cup. Iraq haven't qualified since 1986, and it was their only World Cup in history. With an unfortunate outcome of 3-for-3 losses, they definitely can have a better tournament in less than 2 years' time. One of the reasons why is their striker is one of the most in form in all of Asia right now, at least for the national team. Ayman Hussein, at the time of this recording, has scored 1 goal minimum in his last 10 matches for the national team, yet somehow has not scored a single goal for his club team in Qatar. This country were heartbroken to Jordan in the Asian Cup, where that same striker scored and then immediately received a red, and following that, Jordan scored 2 goals in stoppage time, 96th and 97th minute, finishing with the 3-2 scoreline. Their Spanish manager Jesus Casas has seemed to adapt an incredible philosophy though with the national team. And again, just like I said with Jordan, even if they do finish third, they seem like one of the stronger teams for that next round. Speaking of fourth round sides though, the battle in this group will be interesting. Seems like by the end, on paper, Saudi Arabia, Australia, and Japan will get the top 3. But fourth place is tight. China had been in awful form until they defeated Indonesia recently. Indonesia had been in promising form until they faced China, drawing in all of their matches, including a controversial match against Bahrain. And Bahrain's only defeat so far was against Japan, a draw to Saudi Arabia, and even defeating Australia. This side in particular have incredible defensive tactics, apart when they have to take on Japan to potentially secure a 4th round spot. Under their Croatian manager Dragan Talajic, they only lost so far to Japan within 8 matches, and in those 8 matches have obtained 5 clean sheets. This side is not the flashiest squad, but they definitely know how to tactically break down their opponents, unify well, and secure much needed results. I would definitely not rule them out. They could make their debut in 2026. Will they be able to finish higher than Indonesia though? Now technically Indonesia have qualified for a World Cup before. They were the first ever Asian team to play in a World Cup, 1938, but under the Dutch East Indies. They need to build on more history though, as they got a forgetful result there. This national team is on the rise though, and a huge reason for that is because they're seriously trying to recruit new players. What I mean by that is, they have been getting many players to represent them that have heritage from the Netherlands. For example, Hilgers, one of their most valuable players, just recently made his debut with the national team. Martin Paes, their goalkeeper, was an incredible upgrade in between the sticks, already making an impact in his first 4 matches. Jay Idzes, even the brother of AC Milan player Reinders, went for Indonesia over the Netherlands. This is the nation's first time they made it this far in World Cup qualifiers. Since the first time they qualified in 1938, there was no real proper qualification. Unfortunately, they still have yet to get a win in that 3rd round, but have sneaked in some interesting draws against Australia and Saudi Arabia. It's surprising their only loss was against China, but there's still a chance to redeem themselves and qualify for 2026. Just probably relying on that 4th round. Let's move on to Africa now. Now for this confederation in particular, I'm only going for countries that have never qualified for the World Cup before. And one side that I think deserves so much credit right now is Sudan. This side are literally in the middle of a civil war right now, yet their national team has turned up over the past year or so in incredible fashion. Top of their World Cup qualifier group over Senegal, and second in their AFCON qualifier group, over Ghana. This side never really seemed to be the most massive threat in football, but now they really could be on their way to make their debut in the World Cup. Compare their World Cup qualifiers now to the last one. They finished in last in the second round with no wins. It is not talked about enough how incredible this side have been lately. Maybe it's a short spurt of form, but they really have what it takes to continue their momentum. Shout out to their manager from Ghana, Apia, who might do his own nation dirty in those AFCON qualifiers, as he only has 2 losses in 12 matches so far. Ghana are not just falling short to this country though. Also in the World Cup qualifiers, they are behind Comoros in the table. They are top of their World Cup qualifier group and are undefeated in AFCON qualification. This country qualifying in 2026 would be madness. Currently managed by the Italian Stefano Cosin, who's only lost 1 out of 11 matches in charge. And keep in mind, prior to this campaign, Comoros have never won a World Cup qualification match before. Getting their first win along with topping their group within 3 matches is incredible. As you can see, Ghana have been lacking recently and have a poor head-to-head record against Comoros in recent times, upsetting them in an AFCON tournament not too long ago.
You can't keep getting away with it!
So don't be shocked if this country continues to prove their worth and qualifies for their very first World Cup. Actually no, in reality, this would be a massive shock. They only have a population of 879,000 people. At the same time though, it is definitely too early to tell. Mali, who are in the same group as them, should be doing much better. They have never played in a World Cup before, and it's shocking when you look at their squad. Incredible midfielders like Bissouma, Haidara on Leipzig, Torre on Stuttgart. Saint Fiet, their new Belgian manager, hasn't lost a match yet, and none of his fixtures were in their questionable World Cup qualifier start. So they definitely have a chance to improve, as their side on paper is definitely much better than most other countries in the Confederation. Another country who are on good track that have never qualified before is Rwanda. They're top over South Africa sharing points, but in AFCON qualifiers, it hasn't been so brilliant for them. Unfortunately, I do think they'll crash in the World Cup qualifiers later on, but we'll see. This country has massively improved their cleanliness, so maybe their football is going on an upwards trajectory as well. Let's move on to CONCACAF now. This one might be a bit more of an obvious pick, but they still haven't qualified since 1998, and it's their only World Cup they played in, Jamaica. Now this is their best chance given their squad, along with 3 CONCACAF powerhouses already getting automatic qualification for being the hosts. Man United's ex-technical coach Steve McLaren has decided to take charge of the Reggae Boys to lead them to glory. So far he's undefeated in 4 matches, and seems to have good banter within this team. The most popular player, Leon Bailey, hasn't been in the squad for quite some time due to being a bit ahead of himself. But still, on paper, they're one of the best sides in the Confederation. The fact that there's more wiggle room in CONCACAF though, with 3 teams already qualifying for being the host, I think Guatemala finally have what it takes to make it. They've had some interesting records in the qualification process before. Although retired now, the top goal scorer in World Cup qualification history is from Guatemala, Carlos Ruiz. Another one that could make their debut is Suriname. Located in South America, but part of CONCACAF, this nation has a lot of players who were actually born in the Netherlands. A lot of current Dutch players would also be eligible to play for Suriname, like Van Dijk, whose mother is from there. They've got some dangerous wingers to their disposal though, like Geraldo Becker, and overall have many players playing across Europe. Anyway, this South American country, along with Guyana and French Guyana, all play in CONCACAF instead of CONMEBOL. What should be giving them more of an advantage to qualify for the World Cup hasn't been working out to their favor so far, but they've had a strong start so far, and like I mentioned, there's less competition in CONCACAF at the moment, so I do think they might finally have what it takes. In their World Cup qualifier group, they're even above El Salvador right now, who I do think, if there's going to be any side that had a massive drought that qualified before, these guys can finally make it themselves. But hopefully we don't see them set new terrible records. There's also the likes of Nicaragua right now, who are top of their group but sharing points with Panama, and even Curacao, who are battling it out very closely with Haiti. So we'll see. With this host factor, I think it's definitely an exciting time for the CONCACAF countries to really prove themselves, and maybe we could see some other debutants that I didn't even mention briefly. One country that I'm leaving out to the end just because they have qualified in 2014 is Honduras. They definitely have some great individual players like Luis Palma on Celtic, David Ruiz on Inter Miami, Arriaga from Partizan. They have gotten some convincing wins recently, including defeating Trinidad and Tobago 4-0. So definitely another side to look out for. I'm just not hyping them up as much since, like I said, they did qualify in 2014. I know I put Greece in my list, even though they qualified in 2014 as well. But in CONCACAF, there's just a bit more debutants to talk about. Now, Oceania definitely deserve a mention, as this is the first time in history we will be seeing an Oceania country automatically getting a World Cup spot. Obviously, the favorites for that go to New Zealand. But also, Oceania will earn a playoff spot later on. New Zealand haven't qualified since 2010, and they had a fascinating campaign being the only undefeated team in the entire tournament, yet still getting knocked out in the group stage. Their captain Chris Wood can definitely guide them to glory, and are already on track to get the deed done. In the Premier League, this striker has already had an exceptional start to this season, scoring 8 goals in 11 matches for Nottingham Forest. CONMEBOL is intriguing as it has the same format as before with one giant table, but the amount of qualified teams has expanded. 6 teams automatically qualifying, 7th goes to the playoffs. We have seen many regulars in this confederation, but there is only one country from this confederation that has never qualified for the World Cup in its entire history: Venezuela. They have had a great start in the qualification campaign, halting Brazil, demolishing Chile. Some slow moments here and there, but you got to admire that they haven't lost yet to Argentina, Brazil, or Uruguay in this campaign so far. They also just made it to the quarterfinals in the Copa America after they topped their group containing Ecuador, Mexico, and Jamaica. Rondon was lethal up top, Sotelo providing incredible creativity and pace. Young Herrera has been immense for Girona. It's been a slow continuum in the qualification, but they definitely still have what it takes. As you can see, the point gap is quite close between many of the teams. One of their biggest competitors though, Bolivia, has recently looked like a proper threat. Maybe the national team is looking better, I don't know, but just take a look at one of my recent shorts. Bolivia are on a crazy streak right now, but it's probably because of their insane home field advantage. You see, Bolivia has always been known to be a nightmare for opposing teams to travel to. With their matches previously played in La Paz, 3,600 meters above sea level, teams visiting usually take a number of days to adjust to breathing to this altitude. Many have complained how dangerous it is, but instead of the Federation taking precautions, they decided to bump it up a notch. Since September, they have now moved their stadium to El Alto, which has one of the highest altitudes out of any city in the world. It's 4,150 meters above sea level now, and the performances since moving for the Bolivian national team have conveniently improved. Venezuela, who were in some seriously impressive form, were the first to travel to El Alto. They got obliterated 4-0. Bolivia then had to travel to sea level and impressively defeated Chile. But then this international break, they once again returned to alpha altitude and defeated Colombia 1-0. Keep in mind, this Colombia team had been undefeated this entire World Cup qualifier campaign until now. Now, after I created this short, Bolivia did travel to sea level and got annihilated by Argentina 6-0. Sure, messy brilliance, but that scoreline is insane to justify that their form is properly improving. The altitude has a massive benefit to their system, and hey, if it's working for them, they can qualify for their first World Cup since 1994. Bolivia at the World Cup tournament have yet to get a win though, and they played in 3 tournaments. Also, if they're playing at normal altitude the entire tournament, I don't know if they'll have what it takes to break history. But in terms of automatically qualifying for the tournament, they have a weapon that can cause destruction within their confederation. Don't sleep on Paraguay just yet either though. The country hasn't qualified for a tournament since 2010 when they made a deep quarterfinal run. Not showing a consistent start to this qualified campaign, but they recently defeated Brazil, which boosted them up massively. Their form isn't the most trustworthy, as in the Copa America they fumbled hard, but appointing the Argentinian manager Gustavo Alfaro in August has seemed to be an upgrade, and they haven't lost a match under him, and they have very solid attacking options to their disposal, so they definitely have what it takes to completely shatter Venezuela and Bolivia's dreams to qualify for the World Cup this time, and they might make a nice return themselves. They definitely look to have better spirits compared to Chile and Peru. Now, like I said guys, this is just my personal list. Of course, many other teams that I have missed, but then this video would be massive if I wanted to include every single one that even has a slim chance to qualify. Would love to see some surprises like I said, so let me know who I missed. Don't forget to like the video if you did enjoy, subscribe if you're new. Much more content to come in the future. We've got the UEFA World Cup qualifier draw in only a month, along with the Club World Cup draw. I hope to see you all very, very soon. Good luck to your country in this World Cup qualifier campaign, if you're still in the race, of course. And I'll see you all very, very soon. Take care. La Cunoch.